politics tonight. Tonight we turn our focus to a critical area that directly impacts food security, job creation and rural development in Nigeria, which is agricultural land development. At the center of this national effort is the National Agricultural Land Development Authority, better known as NALDA. And since assuming office, the CEO says he has led the organization through a period of transformation with a renewed focus on empowering farmers, reclaiming underutilized land and boosting agricultural productivity. It's been a year since his appointment, and tonight we'll be shedding light on the strides the authority has made under his leadership, the challenges faced, and what the future holds for sustainable agriculture in Nigeria. Engineer Cornelius Adebayo, Executive Secretary, CEO, National Agricultural Land Development Authority, joins us from our Abuja studio. Thank you so much for joining us. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. And it's also important to say that Mr. Adebayo is an engineer and also a community and social development expert. Once again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. So it's been a year, Mr. Adebayo. You oversee an authority started with the mandates of harnessing the full potentials of the vast arable lands in Nigeria, empowering smallholder and large-scale farmers and mechanized, support the drive for food and fiber security. How do all of these contribute to diversification of the nation's economy?
Well, NALDA being the core agency to activate production is focused on increasing access to arable and cultivatable land. And in doing this, we're going to engage as many rural dwellers, as many women and children, women and youth, I mean. So with that, we can diversify by increasing production. You see, when we talk about diversification, the easiest way for the country to diversify is to increase production in agriculture. There's been a lot of focus on the energy sector, of course, as the primary source. But you know, from inception, the main source of export proceeds and different revenue for the country has been agriculture, and so we're trying to restore that and improve production of agricultural produce. And one of the main issues that we have that stops or limits production is access to mechanization and access to land. And these are the two main areas that NALDA is addressing.
And also, you know, there have been varying public opinions about NALDA's impacts and transparency. How do you respond to criticisms that the authority hasn't fully lived up to its mandate in some areas? And apart from that, which I just mentioned, what are some of the key criticisms you've heard rather, since taking office? What were the major challenges facing the authority when you took over, and how have you addressed them?
Okay, you see, NALDA was created in 1992, and after some time, it was scrapped, but it was brought back by President Muhammadu Buhari. And since then, the agency has been rebuilding in stages. But one of the major things is a lot of people do not even know, but there are lots of projects that NALDA is implementing in various communities. That is why you can see, of course, gradually you can see that production has started increasing in different areas of the economy. You look at palm production, it has increased because NALDA is doing a lot of palm estates. And with our projects that we've drawn, we do foresee a situation where very soon Nigerians will see the impact of NALDA in the various communities. We're not trying to focus on the small projects anymore. We're trying to concentrate on aggregate projects to be massive in such a way that we can have effects, positive effects on the economy. In terms of complaints, is accessibility. A lot of people in the communities don't even know where to reach NALDA or where to see NALDA. how to access or be part of this program. But what we are doing now is that we're designing a holistic approach to this, where our state offices, our regional offices are fully functional, and we have proper programs that are well publicized, where Nigerians in different places can participate properly and benefit from these programs. So I think more of enlightenment and a wider reach is what we're doing now to make sure an average Nigerian can have access to us.
All right, we'll come back to the project, but still about criticisms, because NADA has experienced multiple shutdowns and revivals across different administrations. Some have said this has led to a lack of continuity in programs and investments. The abandonment and reactivation cycle has wasted public resources and undermined long-term planning. And I'm sure you're aware of this. You have a 10-year strategic plan for the authority. What has been your overarching vision for NADA, and how has that vision evolved over time in the past 1 year? Okay.
I would correct one thing. It's been just one scrapping, not multiple. For whatever reason, that was done. But since NADA was brought back, there's been no disruption. Now, what we have done here now is to build a structure where even after I am done in NADA or anyone else can continue, because government is a continuum. What we now did is to draw the 10-year strategic plan for NADA, which shows a short-term, mid-term, and long-term strategic plan for anyone to implement. We're looking at addressing the issue of food security, availability of food that we consume every day. We're looking at addressing the issue of import substitution. Addressing the substitution means producing what we import. We have a lot of commodities we are bringing in. We have wheat. We have a lot of byproducts from cassava that we are importing, even after being the largest producer of cassava. So these are the areas. Then finally, you now have the export promotion, where we're trying to make sure that we improve our dollar earnings by exporting what people need around the world. So we have grouped these into stages, and ensuring that having a 10-year strategic plan, we know that at this level, we're starting for the short term. We're making sure we prepare land properly, because I always tell people you cannot fly overnight. You have to walk first. We have to make sure we prepare our land properly. We have to make sure we sample our land properly. We do soil tests, soil sampling, soil mapping, land preparation properly. Then we can now reach and attain the desirable tonnage per hectare in terms of output. So that is what we're doing. And with the strategic plan in place, the agency is well positioned to be able to achieve what it wants to achieve easily. In the last 1 year, we've drawn the programs that we want to draw, and we've started implementation of those projects gradually as part of the phase 1, which is the land preparation phase. Because you would know. Yeah, okay.
And I'm here wondering, Engineer Adebayo, what the authority is doing to assist smallholder farmers in securing land for agricultural ventures.
Okay, for smallholder farmers, we're looking at a way we can bring them in to our programs to move them from being smallholder farmers to mid or large scale farmers. And we cannot address every smallholder farmer where they are located and move from farm to farm and pockets of land to land. It's going to be a logistical nightmare. It's going to be expensive. It's going to cost government a lot of money, and it's going to take a lot of time. So the best way to address this is to bring them into these programs where we have farm estates, where land can be made allocated to each farmer, and they can produce what is designated for that farm estate, so that it's easy to monitor them, it's easy to provide support to them, it's easy to reach them at any point in time. It's easy to train them and extend extension services to them where they are.
Because I was going to ask you or remind you, I mean, if you ever heard about this, the agency has been accused of, slow project execution and being bogged down by bureaucracy, which, reduces its effectiveness on the ground. Farmers often report delay in receiving input, support, or access to land that the program promises. What exactly are you doing differently?
Well, the new now, under the direction and guidance of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we are focused more on the infrastructure part of the value chain. So when you talk about input right now, we don't directly, deal with that, because we believe that interagency cooperation, you have a lot of government agencies dealing with this and that. Federal Ministry of Agri is making sure inputs get to people. What we are trying to do is to make sure that the farmers have a conducive area to work. So that is our own focus. That is our own focus right now. Make sure the farmers are well prepared to receive the input that might be coming from where else. You have other agencies like Agri Development Fund and the Bank of Agri that are positioned to finance the input element of production. But we are focused on providing the infrastructure to make it easy, take the heavy lifting for those farmers, so that whenever they are well positioned to be able to access this funding to have input. Because I must say, as a government, we are moving from the direction of subsidized agriculture. Will be subsidized everywhere in the world. They support farmers and subsidize, but the emphasis should not be on it being free, because we have to realize that agriculture is a business, and you have to treat a business as such, and it is a profitable one at that. So,
Engineer Adebayo, I hear you. You say agriculture will be subsidized. I'm sure you know farmers are not hearing this for the first time. They've heard this repeatedly. And let's stay on this, because it was about a week ago Mr. President reassured Nigerians that all bottlenecks hindering the realization of the agricultural sector's potential, including livestock production, will be removed to enable food sovereignty and exports. And I'm wondering what initiatives or new initiatives or projects has NADA launched since your tenure began. How has the scope or reach of NADA's programs changed in terms of land coverage, states involved, or farmer participation?
Okay, so I'll give you an example. When Mr. President said that one of the major issues that we have, as you said, is land access. And what we have done is we've launched what we call the Renewed Hope Mega Farm Estates. We have pilot projects in Ekiti State, Bauchi State, and Kwara State. And now these estates are model estates that are at least 5,000 hectares in size, which means you are having an average of about 800 to 1,000 farmers on every estate. Now, what this does is we are clearing this land, we're making hostels available, we're making admin blocks available, we're making police station available, we're allocating at least 5 hectares to each farmer. Now, for me, that is access. You've given them land. You're designating mechanization centers in these clusters. So you see those tractors you see that Mr. President launched. Those tractors are not going to be flung around without planning. Those tractors will service certain mechanization centers. Those tractors will service companies that are going to be allocated to local government, so that you can have access to those tractors in different areas of the country. So being clusterized, clearing those lands, preparing that area, makes production easy, makes agriculture profitable for our farmers, makes financing easy, because a bank, for example, Bank of Agri, can know that, okay, I have 800 customers in this place. I am financing them for production. I have access to them. I'm seeing what they are producing, and I see them when they harvest. That makes it easy. So you don't have the non-performing loans from the banks, because you know you can trace where your farmers are, and that gives the commodities a better price, because there's traceability. Whoever is buying knows where it is from. It knows the quality of the input that has gone into producing those outputs. So that is what we're doing.
So when you say the pilot program kicked off...
One minute, please. One minute. Those farm estates are going to transform our rural society totally, because it's going to be rebuilding confidence for our rural people, rebuilding economic strength for them. And you see, when we want to develop as a country, the first place to catch that development and start it is from the rural area. Yes, please, you can go ahead.
So when you said the pilot program kicked off in Ekiti State, I was just wondering what's happening with other state governors? Is there a challenge bringing them on board?
No, you see, that is why we called it a pilot project, because it's a proof of concept. Okay. When you start mega projects like that, it's difficult to roll out in all 36 states. There will be teething issues. You have to make the mistakes. Of course, no one can start such big projects without having hiccups here and there. So Ekiti State, Kwara State, and Bauchi State are states that we've penciled down to start. Yes, a lot of governors are interested. The state governments are supportive. They are offering to land for this project. But at least when we start with those ones and we see the level of success, even the private sector sees that model, and it's easy for them to replicate in other states, because this is a POC for them. And the same model now that is running, the federal government is running, does not have to be run by government. It's just government taking the leap of faith to show them that, look, this model works. And then the private sector can come and run it after and start their own and use the same model as a business model. So that is what we're doing. That's why we're starting with those 3 states for the mega farmer states.
All right, let me ask you about tractorization of feeds for agriculture. I mean, I've been thinking, are there key challenges facing tractorization in the feed production sector?
In the what? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
In the feed production sector.
Food production sector.
In the feed production sector, are there targeted programs providing subsidized or shared tractor services for feed crop farmers?
Yeah, yes. You see, there are lots of upcoming companies, private sector efforts to mechanize our agriculture. But you see, what Mr. President has done has single-handedly raised the bar. The equipment Mr. President just launched, the Renewed Hope Mechanization Program, has potential to make 500,000 hectares of land mechanized. For me, that is a leap. That is a jump, because you are going to ensure that 500,000 is produced in grains, in cassava. If you calculate the output on that, it's going to transform our food sector. So, you see, these tractors are supposed to be given to mechanization companies in different areas. These tractors will be given to agricultural institutions. These tractors will be given to, like, universities of agriculture, research institutions. So it helps us in research and development. It helps us in producing more within the land we have. And what this has done really is that it has moved NADA to even move faster, because we have realized that a lot of tractors, if not used on proper land, means we are going to go back to square one, because those tractors will be destroyed in no time. But so what NADA is doing is doubling its effort to ensure that we look at clusters and we move in there to clear and prepare with the stump, with the stone, and make sure that that land is ready for tractors to go on them. Because if we throw tractors into soils and lands with stumps and roots, we're going to destroy those equipment in less than 6 or 7 months. So with what NADA is doing, you can see Mr. President in his wisdom, the day he launched those tractors, he also said, if you notice his speech, he said, and 50 bulldozers. So he's making 50 bulldozers available to NADA immediately so that we can roll out nationwide and ensure that as many clusters as we can cover, we clear and prepare land for Nigerian farmers to produce.
All right then. The authority is in the process of reclaiming many of its assets scattered across the country. I want you to disclose to us, some of these assets and how far you've gone with the reclamation. But I'll allow you to answer that question after when we come back from this break. Please stay with us, everyone.
All right.
Power, politics, and accountability on fireworks. No seat is too high, no question too hard. If they hold an office, they are on the hot seat. If they have power, they answer to the people and answer the hard questions.
Only strong men lead, not weak men who don't have knowledge, who don't have capacity, who don't have access.
This is not just talk. This is fireworks. Corruption
It started
came in.
corruption in when you cannot send your animal to where they train police officers.
No filters, no favoritism, no fear, no holds barred, unbiased, unafraid, unfiltered.
Why should people elected into office and are being funded by the treasury of the state, and then their salary and allowances will be treated in secrecy?
Fireworks, only on TVC News.
TVC News, first with breaking news.
Welcome back to Politics Tonight, everyone. Engineer Cornelius Adebayo, Executive Secretary, CEO, National Agricultural Land Development Authority, is my guest tonight. And tonight he's been speaking to us about, shedding more light on the strides the authority has made under his leadership, the challenges faced, and what the future holds for sustainable agriculture in Nigeria. Thank you very much for staying with us on the program, Engineer. Like I said before we went to that break, the authority is in the process of reclaiming many of its assets scattered across the country. According to some reports we got from the authority. Can you disclose some of these assets and how far you've gone with this reclamation?
Okay. The old NALDA had invested in plantations in several states in the country. So essentially what they did back then was that they picked hectareage of land in each senatorial district, 3 per state, some more than 3. And they cleared the land, provided input, and supported farmers and allocated land to them. So you have a lot of palm plantations, you have cashew plantations, you have cocoa plantation in different areas of the country. So what happened was when NALDA was returned during the administration of President Buhari, it started afresh without looking back. And we believe that if you want to move forward, you must at least know your history and look back. We went back and looked at the files, we looked at the records, and we saw that we had all these assets scattered around. So what we have done is that we've set up a committee, a recovery committee that's going state by state and discussing with the communities, discussing with the farmer associations and groups in those clusters, bringing them back into the fold, because these plantations are there, but they actually need now that support. They need our support in terms of infrastructure provision,
how much success
access to different things.
How much success have you recorded, Engineer?
Yeah, okay. Yes, we've recorded good success in areas like the plantation in Odogbolu. Okay. We have recorded good success in our plantation in Ede, in Osun State. Good success with the 2 cashew plantations in Kwara. So gradually we are reclaiming.
There have been no resistance from any individuals, communities, or state governments.
We've had resistance from certain communities. In fact, some of them instigated by traditional rulers. But I always say that it's lack of understanding that is leading to this, because they would gain more in the long run when they cooperate with NADA and the agency comes in to support. So some of the communities are saying, no, don't cooperate with them. But, what government has invested in, and agreements are agreements. Agreements must be met. So it is just an appeal to most of these traditional rulers to let government come back in, train your farmers, even replace some of those trees, because some of these plantations were set up in 1996, 1998. Some of those trees are old because most of them are tree crops. So we need to set up a plan to replace them so that they can start growing and we can start getting more yield output from them in the nearest future. So I think we're on the right path in terms of that and recovery.
Good to hear that. And I'm also here wondering, because you just said many of NALDA's older projects include irrigation systems, trees, housing blocks, and storage facilities. How is the agency prioritizing which assets to refurbish, repurpose, or decommission? Does NALDA have plans to digitize or publish an assets registry to ensure public transparency and reduce what I call future mismanagement?
Yes. Okay. Well, most of our assets are land assets. They are land, prepared land and cleared land and plantations. So what we are doing is, NALDA is planning to set up what we call the National Agricultural Land Bank. This land bank shows all NALDA-owned land. Not only that, we are also trying to capture other federal government agency-owned land, the river basin authorities. We're trying to capture state government-owned agricultural land and even private sector-owned land over 500 hectares. What does this do? This allows us plan properly in terms of agricultural operations. So when we have this land bank, we know where NADA assets are, we capture those lands, we know what is cultivated on it, we know what the output on each is. So all this is digitalized. Through this mechanism, based on that platform, we can now go into proper farmer registration, because you can't just go around and register farmers without mapping the land. So when we have a land bank and a map, then we can register farmers, we can register their livestock, even if it is a livestock farm, So that is the approach for us. When we have a proper registry like this, it's easy to track and monitor what we have, what to invest in, what to leave, or what to let go of.
Another critical issue, Engineer Adebayo, is that a segment of young Nigerians are shying away from traditional farming. I mean, you and I know that this is largely due to negative perceptions and a lack of access to capital and resources. Though some are increasingly interested in modern agribusiness and the wider agricultural value chain through technological advancements and new programs. The perception of farming as a low-income, low-status, and backward profession is a significant deterrent. What efforts has NALDA made under your leadership to involve youth in agriculture and rural development? How does NALDA ensure the inclusion of women and local communities in its land development initiatives?
Okay, thank you. Talking about youth involvement and women involvement, I gave an example of our mega farm estates that we're doing. Now, let me give you a scenario here. When you have like five hectares to a farmer, let me use maize, for example. If you have an output, which is poor, of course, but if you have an output of about 2 tons on your maize farm, that means if you are planting 5 hectares, you are looking at 10 tons. Now, with the sort of agriculture we're planning, the training, the quality input, the extension service, the provision of mechanization service, each farmer would be looking at between 4 to 5 tons in output. So when you are looking at 4 to 5 tons per hectare, if you look at 4 tons per hectare by that 5 hectares that you are cultivating, you understand what I mean? So we're talking about 20, that's double. So we're looking about 20 tons. So when you calculate the cost of that at about 500,000, the numbers are not small anymore. That becomes something viable and attractive for a young person to do. And that is why these projects are NALDA is taking this project very serious. You see, by the time a few young people take part in this, they would be the drivers of the story. They would be the ones to tell the story to the others. No one would want to go to the major cities to look for jobs when you know that you can be in your community, comfortable, eat fresh food, and earn decent income. So with this mega farm estate, I can guarantee you that the income is not low income, it's even higher than what some people earn in private sector jobs in some major cities, and you are paying less rent living in a rural community. You have the potential to even live in a hostel on the farm estate, which means that you even have housing costs reduced.
All right.
I don't see why this would not be attractive to any youth.
I mean, we're talking about Nigerian youth here, but we'll come back to that if time permits us. While going through my research, I discovered that Malaysia has its own version of this kind of authority, which is FELDA. It is Malaysia's multi-billion-dollar agricultural land authority. And surprisingly, it's transitioned from a welfare agency to a multi-billion-dollar agro-industrial enterprise. Today, FELDA alleviates rural poverty through land development and agricultural resettlement. Hence my first question about diversification of the economy. That authority has grown into a multi-billion-dollar agency with successful plantation schemes and global market links. What lessons is NALDA drawing from that model?
Okay. Felder was started in the 1950s, if I'm correct. It's been existing for a very long time. And I can tell you we've studied the Felder model properly. Okay. Felder built bulk a large part of Malaysia. And that is the same thing we're trying to make NADA do. The model was to set up farm estates and manage those farm estates. Now, we cannot develop agriculture, as we said, dealing with smallholder farmers in pockets and sizes. We need to put them into our farm estates. So this farm estate policy is really, really the key to development of our agriculture. That is the plain thing. And the Felder model is a farm estate policy, is a farm estate model. So that is the same model that NADA is going to use. And you can see, apart from our Renewed Hope Mega Farm Estate that we're doing, I'll give you two examples. We have a project in Osun State in Ilarogun that is ongoing now. This is for oil palm, an oil palm estate of about 3,000 hectares. Now, this is the similar thing to what they did in Malaysia. You have farmers on that estate having 5 hectares each. You have NADA is clearing the land. In fact, the seedlings are on site right now, are being nurtured and maintained for distribution to the beneficiaries. So within that 3,000, you are looking at least maybe 300, 400, 500 beneficiaries, depending on how many get each hectares. How many takes 5 hectares, how many takes 3 hectares, because some people, in terms of size of land and shape of land, it's difficult to allocate all land equally sometimes. So, you see, that is what we call rural transformation. What that will do to Ilarogun is that you will see farmers with higher purchasing power. They can purchase more things. That will transform the economy of that area. You see them having enough funds to buy, to eat properly, buy better things. That will transform the retail sector. People that are probably selling things on the side of the road have
hear you, Engineer Adebayo.
Sell them better produces.
Right.
Yes.
If you're taking after Felder's model, I also realize that Felder's success is tied to its strong commercialization strategy. Does the authority have a roadmap to transition from government-subsidized operations to a self-sustaining, profit-generating authority?
Yes. Yes, you see, the NADA model and the NADA Act allows NADA to do partnerships and joint ventures. Now, these partnerships and joint ventures are the ones that would not run as enterprises that would generate enough revenue for us to be able to support the smaller farmers. So when you have large enterprises, corporations coming to NADA and saying, look, we want to set up 5,000 hectares of plantation for oil palm. We want to set up 5,000 hectares for cocoa. And NADA partners with them, prepares land and mechanizes for them as our own equity in that venture. In return, NADA has a stake in that SPV that is created. That SPV earns enough money for us to have inflow and revenue for us to support the smaller farmers spread across the country. It is the same thing. It is the simple model that we're implementing, because what does this do? This spurs private sector participation. This encourages people with idle funds sitting in banks to say, okay, look, I can have a plantation in partnership with government, which means I have security and I have confidence that my investment is secure. So that would spur private sector participation in plantation ownership. And once we have that, we have enough feedstock for our factories and enough feedstock for exportation.
All right. That sounds good. And also, let's go back to the recent presidential launch of 2,000 tractors, which you talked about earlier, and other agricultural implements. You said it's the first phase of the Renewed Hope Mechanization Project. I mean, I know tractors and implements are being distributed via a service provider model. I may be wrong, but that's what I think. So what criteria are used to select service providers, and how is transparency and accountability ensured in deployment across states?
All right. Now, for you to be speaking about the first phase, We have 2,000 tractors now. There are several other mechanization programs that will be bringing in tractors. You have the one domiciled in NADF for tractors from the US. You have the Brazilian program. So the John Deere one, the Brazilian one. So those are different programs. Now, what this would do in terms of distribution is there are parameters that were set in place to say, okay, look, for you to qualify to be a service provider, some of them are existing. You have several service providers existing in the country. You have Hello Tractors, you have Tractor on the Go, you have different, and you have TOAN, Tractor Owners Association of Nigeria, where you have little pockets and little companies that have 2-3 tractors. So for you to benefit, you have to have some sort of track record. Are you a member of TOAN? Have you owned tractors before? What areas are you servicing? How many hectares are you covering? Do you have farming associations that you are servicing? Do you have list of farmers you are servicing? How many hectares do you want to cover? Can you cover 2 local governments? Can you cover 3 local governments? So that we can have an equal share of this equipment around the country. You don't want a situation where a state gets 30 and one state doesn't get any.
All right. So kindly help us with that. Talking about tracking outcomes and results, can you share progress reports on actual deployment? I'm talking about how many tractors and implements have already been distributed to farmers and which regions or states have benefited thus far?
No, the distribution physically has not started. After Mr. President launched, a committee has been set up to verify and screen. As you said, you want to see accountability, you want to see transparency. You cannot just rush to distribute these items without properly vetting who is applying and where it's going to. So that process is currently ongoing. We're verifying and vetting and we're discussing in-house on how and where these items would go. Definitely, it will be publicized and the entire country will see how this has been done. So I want you to be rest assured that the process and the government is on top of this and is really concerned about the impact. Note, we are tracking all these tractors and equipment. Okay. We're going to track them because we don't want a situation where you deploy 10 tractors to let's say Odogbolu and or Ijebu, and you find out that the operator is going to use those tractors in Jigawa or Sokoto. All right. So there will be trackers installed in the tractors to ensure that the operators that have been given these tractors are using it where they should be using them.
All right, so what are the next phases and what timelines and targets have been set for them? And also, what more should we be expecting in the second phase? Well,
for example, the second phase is not even domiciled with my agency. Okay. Neither was the first one. It's domiciled Agri Development Fund. Okay. So they would be in a better position to talk about how the timeline of that particular phase. But for the one for the GIP, the Brazilian project, the MOU was just signed during the visit of Mr. President to Brazil last year. So we're waiting for the completion of that process before they can even talk about deploying or sending the equipment down. When the Brazilian delegation came to Nigeria this year again, there were further meetings that were had on that matter because these things are multilateral and bilateral kind in nature. So it takes a bit of time to complete and implement. But I'm very sure that soon we would start seeing those ones coming in to support the 2,000 that are already here.
All right. But are there plans to establish local fabrication or assembly plants, perhaps through partnerships with local manufacturers to reduce reliance on imports?
Most of those supply agreements have maintenance and technology transfer component. So you have certain government agencies like the NCAM and in Ilorin and certain agencies that are positioned to benefit from that. So there's a bit of technology transfer component in it. There's a bit of maintenance agreement. So, you know, when you train our engineers on how to maintain, on how to service them, there's more knowledge. Then you now transfer the technology in terms of how to put it together. And I know very well that there are certain agreements being signed that I cannot disclose now because, of course, it's too early, that involves setting up manufacturing centers and fabrication centers in Nigeria for those equipments. At the appropriate time, those ones will be announced, but those are not even part of the 10,000 or the bigger play that we're talking about. Those are different programs in terms of tractor manufacturing in Nigeria. So, yes, we're looking at that. That is the future. That is what we want to do. We want to be major players in that field so that we can service other countries too. So, yes, it's a welcome development and something that is in play already.
So over the next 5 years, what legacy or institutional capacity does NAUDA hope to leave behind to ensure mechanization continues, even beyond this administration?
You see, with the sort of structure that NAUDA is drawing in terms of partnerships with the private sector, you see, I always tell people the private sector is the biggest push that we can have to keep things sustainable. When you have, for example, there are several companies that have come to NAUDA and say, look, we have a pool of equipment. Can NAUDA partner with us so that we have a special purpose vehicle or a different company where NAUDA also brings in some equipment, we have a larger pool, and we can service specific designated areas or in-grower systems somewhere. Now, those are ventures that would outlive multiple executive secretaries or heads of NAUDA because you have that private sector involvement. So, and with the current plan by the government to have a defined policy direction in terms of land development, that would be a long-lasting guide for the sector, for mechanization, for land development, for NAUDA, for farm estate development. So I think the government is doing everything within the law to try and set up things to protect this policy, to make it a long-lasting one. And with private sector participation, my dear sister, it's the sky.
All right.
We are going to have at least 1 minute. We're going to have at least 10 mechanization companies in partnership with NAUDA. And that is ongoing. That we've signed 3 MOUs. So those companies will outlive.
All right, but for the purpose of clarity and emphasis, how many hectares of land has NAUDA cleared, both for its self-owned projects and for private investors? How does NAUDA prioritize which lands to clear, particularly between government-owned land and investor-requested land? And also, what are the selection for allocation or allocation criteria? And if you just wrap all of this up in 1 minute. For land cleared on behalf of private sectors, what agreements or public-private partnership models are in place? Okay, we have an agreement with Agbeyewa Farms in Ekiti State to clear 5,000 hectares for cassava production. We have an agreement with Promise Point Farms Industries. Promise Point is a flour making industry, cassava flour making industry, and we have gone. They had issues with supply. We've gone ahead to clear 600 hectares for them, so that that can catalyze production of cassava for that industry. We have agreement with MCI Farms for Delta and Edo states. Then we have agreement for maize production in Jigawa State with TSI Farms. So those are MOUs and agreements that are in play already. On NAUDA owned farms, we have cleared 1,200 hectares in Ekiti. We've cleared 1,050 hectares in Kwara. We've cleared 300 hectares in Bauchi. We've cleared another 1,000 hectares in Plateau State. And we've cleared 150 hectares in Benue State. So those are the
the areas where
All right.
we have covered and cleared
All
in
right.
a short
Thank
period.
Thank you so much, Engineer Cornelius Adebayo. I mean, it was quite, it was very important for us to have that conversation with you. Very enlightening. You know, a lot of Nigerians didn't know this authority existed. And for those who knew, they say this authority receives funding but does nothing. And it's so, you know, good to hear that you're trying and doing all you can to change this narrative. Thank you so much for speaking with us on Politics Tonight.
Thank you so much.
Engineer Cornelius Adebayo, Executive Secretary, CEO, National Agricultural Land Development Authority. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That's our package tonight. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But before we go, let's tell you that the views and reactions of our resource persons are theirs and have no